Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I am excited to intro a new guest. So, we haven't had this person before, but they have over 10 years of experience as an analyst. They've got a master's degree from Kent State, and they're also, I'm throwing out this term before, I haven't used it before. They're also a data tuber. So, they do data analytics education on YouTube. Check out his channel. It's Angelo the BA. So now our guest, Angelo Kalevela. Said that right this time, right?
Yep, you nailed it. Good job.
Sweet. So I guess what our listeners are really interested in is how did you become a senior analyst, or how did you get so far into your analytics career? Because you're 10 years in at this point.
hmm Yeah, so I mean, that's a long journey. So there's a lot of different points along the way. But I think in the beginning, the most important thing for me was, in my whole life, I've always been like a team player and I've always been a part of a team. And to me, one of the scariest things is to be the weakest link on a team because, they always say you're only as strong as your weakest member. So
Right.
right from the beginning, I thought to myself, I need to make sure that that weakest link is not me. Like I want to make sure I'm great at what I do. And I understood that even in a corporate setting, like the things that people think a business analyst should do at my job may not be everything that a business analyst does. So I took it upon myself to make sure that I'm not just good at doing what I'm told to do at work, but that I'm actually doing a good job, like globally as a business analyst. And I knew what it meant to be a good business analyst.
Mm.
And I kept chasing those things. And I think that's really what set me apart from a lot of people and helped me to succeed and be as successful as I have been.
Yeah, we actually have like a specific soundbite around that of, are you an order taker or are you more of an advisor? And it's kind of like, do you wait for your manager to come tell you what to do, or are you proactively studying the data, learning about, the business acumen or the business side of things, and proactively solving problems?
Yeah, and I think a lot of new analysts are always going to kind of be order takers because they're scared. They don't know exactly
Mhm.
what they should be doing. They don't know exactly how to push and say, I don't think I should be doing that. I should be doing this, or this is what I'm going to do to provide you value. They're just hoping to learn on the job. So there's a little bit of like fear when you're your first day on the job because you don't know what you should exactly be doing. So you want to let somebody else tell you what you should be doing. But definitely as you grow and learn what your job actually is and what your role is and the value that you should be providing, you should be telling people, hey, you want this, this is what I'm going to do for you to help you get there.
Right. I mean, that's an excellent caveat, because you don't want to come in day one, guns blazing. Hey, you guys are doing all of this wrong. This is, do
Right.
this, do that, do this. Because then they're just not going to like you. Also, you don't know anything yet,
Right.
especially if
Yeah.
it's like that first entry level job.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, even if you're experienced, you should definitely, when you start a new project or with a new organization or whatever, you should definitely take some time to listen first. Just
Mm.
like building any relationship, you should take some time to listen and understand who you're working with, who you're talking to, why they are where they are, so you can help them move out of that spot to whatever that next thing is.
Yeah. So, what was your first analyst role, and how did you get it? Was it an intern that turned into a job, or did you apply on like Indeed or Monster or one of these job posting
But
sites?
yeah, so I applied. It was my first job out of school, and I applied through the school like job board posting thing, which I recommend anybody who's still in school. When you go through something like Indeed or whatever, LinkedIn, CareerJet, you see a lot of postings that say entry level, but then they say 1 to 2 years of experience, and then everybody's like freaking out.
Right.
Um, but when you go through the path that companies have set for new hires, then you won't feel that. Like if like one going through your school, one finding that spot on their website that says new grads or college grads or new graduates or whatever it is, like oftentimes they have a section just for that type of person who wouldn't have any experience anyway. So I applied through that mechanism, and I actually did not have any career related internships while I was in college.
Wow.
I was doing a lot of extracurriculars, um, and they were like wholly unrelated to the profession. My main extracurricular was dancing, which a lot of people find pretty surprising,
Hmm.
given that I'm in like the IT field. But through that, I developed a lot of soft skills. I was a leader. I was a teacher. the coursework kind of spoke to, like, my grades and coursework spoke to what I was capable of learning, but then those soft skill activities showed how I worked with other people. So even though they weren't very tightly related, they still made me stand out and get opportunities right out of the gate.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I think those graduate is what they call that, right? Like I know
Yeah.
at Volvo, where I had my two internships, they have a graduate program where they're looking to take people fresh out of school and show them every side of the business. Like you're on like a 3 month rotational program. So in those situations, the fact that you're brand new is actually a benefit because it means that
Right.
you're, was it, tabula rasa, where you're a fresh slate and they can train you and bring you up within their culture. Because a lot of times hiring managers will bring someone in and they clash with the team. And then it's like the cultural fit's not right. And that's a headache.
Right. And what you need to remember as a new grad or a college grad is that they're hiring you because you've proven your ability to learn. So they
Hmm.
don't expect you to be an expert in everything when you get there, but they expect you to start picking up stuff really fast. Because when you're in school, every semester you have a whole new subject that you have to learn pretty in depth. So they assume
Right.
you could do that and you're capable of it.
So what was the job title that you applied for?
The job title I applied for, because it was one of those like college, like, grab everybody buckets, it was like, I think I said like software engineer, but the
Hmm.
job description listed probably like, I don't know, 5 or 6 different jobs if you really like split it up and realize the one person couldn't do all that's listed here. But interestingly enough, when I interviewed, the kind of the roles and skills of like a business analyst, which is what I am now, weren't really listed on that sheet. But like if you were in my major, which was management information systems, it was the kind of job description that you would apply for. So I applied for it, and when I interviewed with the guy, he was kind of like, "Yeah, you don't really match exactly what we have here because those were much more developer oriented, software engineering stuff." And he was like, based off of your soft skills and your ability to deal with problems, I think you'd be better off as a business analyst, which isn't listed here, but is an opportunity that we have.
Oh, that's really cool. I feel like a lot of the listeners on our channel are really fixated on what are the specific titles that I should target, and I think that that question has a bit of a framing problem, in that you're asking the wrong question. Like I think what you should be doing is reflecting on, well, what are my skills, what are my experiences, and what do I like. So for example, I actually answered this question today. One of the listeners to our podcast asked, I've got 7 years of teaching experience, should I target a business analyst role or a data analyst role? And it's like, mm, I don't know if you should be focusing on a title. Maybe what you should do is leverage those 7 years of education and find an analyst role in the education industry.
Exactly. Especially if you're inexperienced, like there's a lot of things that you may not realize could be valuable to somebody. So you need to look at kind of the whole picture. And also, as a teacher, especially depending on the grade you're teaching or whatever it is, like you have to deal with different difficult situations, difficult people, and every job has those types of situations. So if you can prove that you're capable of dealing with those types of situations regardless of the context, you're also still showing your value in potentially a lot of different contexts that you may not see right off the bat. Like teacher doesn't mean teacher. Teacher means I can explain things to people clearly. I can explain things to people in a lot of different ways to help different types of people understand things. I know how to lead a room of people by getting up on the whiteboard and explaining processes. So those are all skills that a teacher has that also a business analyst is expected to have. And if you think of teaching activities as just a thing that a teacher has to do, you're going to limit yourself as well.
Right, you're a communicator. I feel like that is something that is almost looked down upon in the analytics space of soft skills are secondary or not important, but hard skills. Like I sell a bunch of online courses, and it's just seems like there's a bottomless pit of demand there because people just want to constantly upskill their technical chops, whether they're, want to start learning more advanced data visualization or even get into coding, but they don't really get into how do I communicate, you know, data visualization as a storytelling mechanism. It's all about they want to make like a fancy algorithm or a super complex data visualization. I find that really interesting.
Yeah, and like I think, for a business analyst specifically, because it's a non-technical role, there's not a lot of different ways you can kind of, I don't want to say hide, but it's kind of what you're doing behind these technical skills, and instead of working on those soft skills. Because at the end of the day, if you can create or code a beautiful thing but you can't explain people what it is, like you've not provided any value. But if you could kind of muster something together but you could explain it so everybody gets it, you're providing much more value. So those soft skills are really kind of the make or break skills, especially for an analyst, where half of your job is to be analyzing, right? Be in the
Mhm.
data, be in the processes, be in whatever it is you're analyzing. The other half is communicating that and making other people understand that and understand the implications of that. And sometimes negotiating with people to say, hey, you thought you wanted this, but in reality, based off of the work that I've done, and being able to have those conversations productively. Like those are
Right.
the things that determine success versus failure,
So yeah, you're kind of
not
getting back to
how
that
much of a
sound.
super technical person you are.
Yeah, you're kind of getting back to that sound bite of, are you advising people? Because then I think you can start to level up your career and kind of get those promotions and those higher paying roles. Getting back to that question though, of like, what's your story? You got your first job. Then how long did it go before you got your first promotion? Did you move companies? Did you move up within your organization?
Yeah, so I've stayed with the same company and I've moved up. How long was it? I think 2 or 3 years. But I will say that I don't think, like, even if somebody else, like a new analyst, joined my company today, I wouldn't say that the time it took me is the time that it would take them necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of different. I don't want to say politics because it's not, it's still fairly objective who moves up and who doesn't. But then there's also like a level of like responsibility. Like I am the type of person who prefers to take my time and master something before I say, hey, give me the promotion. Some people are more, hey, like throw me in the fire and I'll figure it out, but I want that money. And like
Right.
that wasn't me. And I also like do a lot of things like extracurricularly. And one of the things you'll realize in this job, or in really, I think most jobs is, when you get to a level, like, fresh out of school, for example, the level of um, capability that you're expected to perform at, in the beginning it stresses you out and it's hard and you're thinking about it every night and how are you going to get it done. After a couple of years or months, maybe depending on how fast you pick things up, it's no longer hard for you. So then you're kind of in cruise mode where things aren't stressing you out. You can just do it, you can execute. And usually when you get to that level, that's when you need to decide, okay, how do I get to the next level? Because now I'm cruising, I can do this. It's easy. I need more responsibility. Like I need a little pressure. I need a little stress. But it's up to you how quickly you move up through that
Mm.
pressure and stress. And so if you want to move quickly, it's possible that you can move faster than I chose to go. But I wanted to make sure that I was really good at my level before I get to the next level, because I wanted, like I said, I didn't want to be a good employee where I worked. I wanted to be a great business analyst, like objectively, no matter where I apply to, what company I work for. So like that was my focus, which isn't the focus necessarily of your organization. Of the organization, it's like, oh, you're responsible for this, now you're responsible for this, this, and this, and then now you're responsible for this, 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 and this. And I didn't want that. I wanted to say, I want to be good at this job, which means I need to be able to get good at these things. And I won't be able to do that if you keep giving me more responsibility, where I won't have the time to build those skills and I'll be just putting out fires all the time. So like I chose to, not that I moved up slowly, but I think I could have moved up faster if that's what I wanted to do.
That's fascinating. I feel like we are on completely different tracks because I did the kind of trial by fire thing, and I think there's benefits to both of those because you had a lot more. It sounds like you had a lot of security.
Yes.
I've
Yeah.
had months where it was like I don't know how I'm going to pay rent because right out of grad school I started my own consulting agency. So I mean I'm 3 years into having my own consulting agency, and I finally feel like I've kind of hit a critical mass to where I've worked with enough companies that I have um, organizations reaching back out to me. But yeah, I also often took on projects that I had no idea what I was doing. So I had to learn rapidly And I did kind of accelerate up to kind of that advisor role within a 3-year period. But there was a huge cost in terms of like, I was working like 6, 7 days a week, stressed out, the amount of responsibility. Um, I mean, that's a very interesting perspective because it's very different from mine. And
Yeah,
I like that. I appreciate that.
yeah, everybody has a different journey, and I don't think that my route is necessarily the route everybody should go. And I think that's the reason we're having this conversation, right? So people can understand that there's
Right.
different ways to go about this depending on what's important to you. Like if money was the most important thing to me, the path I would have chosen to go would have probably been to put in a couple of years, move companies and negotiate a higher salary, put in a couple of years, move companies. So when you change companies, you can ask, it's easier to ask for a higher salary than within the track of your own company because there's usually like steps and bureaucracy and other people. So if money's your only um, driving factor, then jumping company to company, because I know people who have worked with me, left the company, and then came back to my same company and made several jumps up in their position because they were coming from someplace else. So if that's your only motivator, you can do that. Those people are much more stressed out than I am. And I
Right.
like to have a good work-life balance. Like I like to work out. I do a lot of extracurricular things, including like having a YouTube channel that I manage. And at that time, it was a website that I managed. I was still dancing. So I was like traveling to like meet up with my friends to go dance. So like I wanted a little bit of freedom in my personal life, and I didn't want to be working until like 12 a.m., 6 days a week, just to prove how hard I can work so I can make more money. I would have preferred to slow that down and like enjoy myself a little bit. But again, some people have different pressures. Like if you're in a situation like you are where you're kind of more consulting and you need to build that momentum, it takes effort to build momentum. Once that momentum is there, then you cruise along. But in the beginning, getting the rock moving is the hardest part. You just have to put in the effort. So it just is a matter of the journey you're on and the perspective you're coming from. But there are different types of journeys, and you can kind of decide which one you want to go on.
Yeah, I think it's a balancing act between kind of earning potential and security because if you look at most C-suite executives, I mean, they don't last very long. You get paid those big dollars amount, but then if something happens and it might be completely out of your control, you're gone, you're out
Yep.
the door. You do bring up a fascinating point that I don't think I've quite articulated yet on the podcast, but we've me and Elizabeth have been talking about this. Um, if you want to make more money, you should change organizations because like I have a personal story where my first consulting client actually what I was an intern there for 6 months before, and negotiating up to the value that I thought it was worth was extremely hard because they were paying me like, I don't know, $15 an hour as an intern. And then all of a sudden I'm like, no, I want 6 times that. And they're like, no, who are you? You just
Yeah.
got this. But I could go to another organization and say, I built out an analytics infrastructure for a $150 million company, and then they're seeing me. It's almost like when you switch companies, you have an opportunity to completely reset the palate. It's like, when you're eating sushi and you have some ginger in between, just to kind of reset.
Yeah,
Um,
that's exactly what it is. And I think also you don't even always have to leave. You could also, and again, it depends on your company and your bureaucracy, but the threat of you leaving could also
right.
give you a boost. If you look elsewhere and see that they're willing to pay you more and that's valuable to you, you know, go through the process with them, see what they're willing to promise you, and you can come back to your company and say, hey, those guys over there think that that's what I'm worth. So do you think I'm worth that much? Because they think I'm worth more, so I will go over there. And your company has the choice to say, no, we'll match them, and please stay here and let the knowledge stay with us, or they'll say we can't, and then you can move on.
Right. I've been in those situations. Well, somewhat. They're stressful.
Oh,
Negotiating salary. So it's
yeah,
kind of that balance of like, do you want a secure, stable job or do you want the big bucks? Because it's like, how willing are you to be uncomfortable? And then that's
yes.
kind of where you should set. Okay, I'm willing to make this much money. So
I mean,
I
they
don't
say
have hard
growth
numbers on that.
growth happens outside of the comfort zone.
Oh, for
So whether
sure.
you're talking about finances, whether you're talking about fitness, whatever it is, you got to kind of go beyond that comfort zone for you to achieve growth. And that's just something everybody needs to accept and their head around, that if you want to make those big jumps in success in whatever it is you're doing, you got to be doing something a little bit more than what you're doing now, something maybe a little different and scary.
Interesting. Um, so let's kind of move on and kind of close this out on your YouTube channel. So it's called
Sure.
Angelo the BA. And I just looked up your most popular video. It's got something like 200,000 views on it, which is insane. That's so much. And it's what do business analysts do? For whatever reason, the algorithm loves those like day in the life of X, Y, and
Yeah.
Z. So are there any other videos that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, I think especially if you are trying to become a business analyst or want to know or understand the skill set to be a good business analyst, I think the best video for you is I think 6 things that you need to know or be good at to be a great business analyst, and they range from things that are generally things you need to be good at to be successful in life to specific things that you need to be good at to succeed as a business analyst. And I think it kind of rounds it out nicely for people to understand what the job truly is outside of just like the technical skills of learning these like technical modeling notations and all those different things. Is kind of separate from that, and I think it rounds it out nicely.
Awesome. Well, Angela, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. I feel like I love this debate that we got into about kind of that security versus the big money, because you have a completely different kind of mindset, and I really appreciate like that differing perspective on things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, taking my time, or at least I feel like I was taking my time. There's people who've moved slower than I have, has allowed me to really develop a wider breadth of skills, which has
Hmm.
allowed me to become like the expert that I am now in the profession, because I've taken the time to learn all the different parts and become good at all the different parts and learn how to teach other people to be good at all the different parts. So to me, that's more valuable and I enjoy that, and it makes me feel more enriched. So that's kind of why I chose to go that way.
Yeah, that's great. Because what I do is I just hire data scientists or whoever and subcontract out sections of the project, which I guess is learning how to manage people, which is a valuable
Yeah.
skill set in itself.
Hmm.
But you probably have a deeper well of knowledge across a wider set of concepts. Well, fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.